Hi guys, this is podcast number 4. Today we've got Mr. Norcross, Miss Pavey, and Miss Ryan. There we go. And we're going to be talking about, in a more general kind of way of putting it, starting something new, and more specifically in the workplace. So, I'm going to throw this one firstly to you, Holly.
Oh God. Okay.
When did you know you wanted to be a teacher, and then more specifically a PE teacher?
Well, believe it or not, I spent a good couple of years in college thinking I wanted to be a chocolatier. Who makes chocolate for a living? Yeah. I was proper on it as well. And then that took a quick turn when I realised I'd have to do a chef course, which means I have to gut fit fish and stuff. And I was like, no. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I just want to make dessert and eat it.
Yeah.
And then I went and worked in a retreat centre for young people, and I liked working with students, kids and stuff like that so much, which is so much fun. I thought I'll go to uni next year and train to be a PE teacher.
What was it about PE then?
Well, I've always loved PE. PE is a big thing in my family. My brother's a teacher in Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. His girlfriend, his fiance is also another PE teacher. Yeah. But I mean, I did so much sport when I was younger and I just loved it. And I think I got asked it on one of my interviews when I went to work at this retreat centre, why PE? And I said, because I just want other people to love it as much as I do.
Oh,
I know isn't always you can do
it makes sense in your life, yeah. Abby?
Yeah,
so mine came about kind of from middle school. So I had a middle school, which I know some people don't have. It's normally just primary and secondary. So primary, I actually hated PE. Hated it. I was like that kid that used to be like, nah, I'm not doing it. But the only reason I hated it was because, I mean, it was just kind of loads of equipment, thrown in the middle of a hall and kind of do what you want, guys. And then I was like, I don't know, I just probably I couldn't be bothered and was being lazy to try and think about things to do. And then when I went to my middle school, it was proper sport and they were so on it. And my form tutor ended up being a PE teacher. And then when I joined, I was like, oh no, here we go, more PE teachers. And then I ended up just falling in love with it, and even more so with him being my form tutor, because he'd push me within the form, what are you doing, abs, blah 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 blah. And then I just thought, you know what, that actually seems like a really cool job. You're outside all the time, in the sunshine sometimes, most of the time in the rain. And then that's kind of from there, that's how I got into sport. And then I created the first football team in my village for girls, and my dad ended up being our coach, which was okay. And then just started from there. And then when I went to sixth form, I then got really into my history, which I did to A level. And I remember my history teacher was like, why do you want to be a PE teacher? Why? Just take history through and be a history teacher. And I was really offended. I was like, no, I want to be a PE teacher. I was like, yes, I like history and I like writing, but I can be a PE teacher too. And I had a bit of an argument with her. So, and then that from middle school, that's all I've ever wanted to be.
Yeah, so it's been quite a focus then, I suppose.
Yeah.
Ryan?
So I think for me, I've always been involved in sport, all the way through primary, secondary, playing it, pretty much any sport going. My pathway kind of went that way as well at A level. I did a football development programme at Seaford Head. And alongside that, kind of had the opportunity to do a little bit of coaching as well. So I did curver coaching through Adidas, and, kind of had a good opportunity there to go and do my level 2 and all sorts of bits and bobs. And I think throughout that process, as well as I used to coach a little bit of athletics as well over in Eastbourne, I kind of just found that maybe I had a little bit of an aptitude towards coaching and quite enjoyed that side of it. Kind of looked into pathways and careers in football and realised they're probably not that sustainable and quite difficult to get into. And obviously you know, I don't just enjoy teaching and coaching football, but all sports. I kind of thought, and from having good role models at Seaford Head, that a PE teacher could be a good pathway for me. So I kind of explored it a little bit. It was quite late, actually, quite a late decision to kind of go into that, because I didn't really know massively what I wanted to do. But then, kind of started looking around university, started to get a bit of a buzz for it. Went to look at the one where Abby went to, Marjon down in Plymouth. Had a look at Bedford, had a look at Brighton, and I decided to go away and get the full experience. And kind of just fell in love with it that way. So
yeah. That actually leads quite nicely on to, have you had any other jobs in between that? I know usually you get, you know, your paper rounds or your stuff like that, but was there any jobs previous to teaching?
Tons. You want me to stay on my one?
You going first, Holes, or who's going first?
Who's going for this one? You want me to go? I'll go.
Oh, then let's go reverse.
I'll go reverse. I literally have pretty much worked in every job you can think of. I think before my first job, I was working in a coffee shop, Paradise Park in Newhaven. Yeah, that's right. With little coach parties coming in, serving the little grandmas their tea and cake. That's right. That's me.
Love it.
Then I went to uni, and then I tried to find jobs every time I'd come back, because a lot of the ones that I had, so that one I couldn't continue as like just a summer job. So then I worked for David Lloyd, like leisure centre down in Brighton Marina. It was great, really loved that, really enjoyed that. And then from there I ended up going and working for a company called Premier Sport, who did like primary school PE and activity sessions throughout. So that was quite good, because that started to tailor it into PE and kind of get more ownership in that, which was good fun. But yeah, to be fair, I've had probably more.
I can't believe that cafe. My grandma goes there.
Back in the day, who knows?
Abby?
So for me, I worked at Waitrose like throughout college, on the tills and the deli counter, which was great, because if you guys know, I love cheese. So working on the deli counter was great, because they were like, yeah, you know, you've got to try all the cheeses to make sure, you know, when the customer asks you what, you know, what's nice and what goes well with what. And I was like, brilliant. Yeah, literally just me on the deli counter, like munching all the cheese. The customer come along, but sorry, I'm just, you know. So that was fun.
What's your favourite cheese?
My favourite cheese, it's a bit of a weird one actually. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a dessert cheese. And it's cinnamon. It's a sweet cheese with cinnamon, like infused. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. And then they stopped doing it, and I was really sad. I used to like get it reduced at the end of the day. Like if nobody really liked it, so then I loved it. So when it got reduced, I was like, yes, cinnamon cheese. But now they don't sell it. And then when I went to uni, a bit like Ryan, you know, like to make money in between, I worked for a soccer, it's called soccer coaching company, who also went into primary schools and did some primary school PE. So did that in between as well. Yeah.
And here we are.
Holly?
Very nice. God, what did I do? Much like Ryan, I did the cafe job, and I think I worked
Chasing
for like wedding functions and stuff. Yes. But no, when I went to uni, that all took a turn, and I mentioned my brother who worked in another country, so I thought that might be something I'd like to do. So I started during my holidays in uni working for a company called Education First, which is where lots and lots of kids from all over the country come to the UK and go to a certain site, and they learn English. So you teach them English in the morning, and then you have activity times with them and stuff like that in the evening.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really fun actually. I loved it. I was a teaching leader, which meant I taught in the morning, and then I also did these groups activities, whereas you could be just an activity leader or a teacher, but I did both, thought best of both worlds, and it's just a brilliant company to work for, because you're responsible for these kids who come, and I pick up loads of different phrases and words. I mean, I had a Chinese group, and I had a Russian group, Spanish group, Italian, so many different, and you just look after them, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed it, and that's when I was like, when I was doing uni, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do, because you play like massive. There's like 200 kids there, so we played huge games of like capture the flag across this massive. It was just it was madness, but it was absolutely hilarious.
It sounds like chaos.
Yeah, well, Brighton actually, I'm sure loads of people have seen them. Those people who are like with loads of foreign kids in a line.
Yeah.
So that was me in a bright pink magenta uniform. Everything was pink, and I mean so pink, and we were like used to question it, and then I was like, well, it's obviously so the kids can see you, but like there's no missing us. We're so pink. I mean, the backpack we were given was pink. We got given a polo that was pink, an umbrella that was pink, and it's just this. It just used to crap me up.
Have you still got all that?
Yeah, I still do. It says my name on the back. I got my parents found it actually and went walking with it, and I was like, why have you chosen to take in a bright pink backpack with you, walking out on the like downs or something? I was like, oh, dear.
That's hilarious.
You do look ridiculous. You embrace it.
You should wear that. You should wear that for like first day back when we're back in.
Yes.
Bring the PE stuff back.
Oh.
So you bet. And that will stop you blending in with the kids. You know when we can't find you.
We're gonna make it happen. You've heard it here first. We're making it happen.
Yeah, because if I wasn't loud enough, you'd definitely see me first.
Yeah.
It was so much fun though. Really good.
Next up, what have you learned from working at different places, both personally and professionally? Anyone go? Abby, maybe you first.
Ooh. Well, I mean, I've definitely worked in different places. So obviously, I trained in Plymouth and Devon and Cornwall, which was a big shock. And I know. Obviously, we're in the countryside here, but it is very different down there. It's a very different way of life. So yeah, that was interesting. It was good to get a feel for schools down there. And then I ended up in London, in East London, training in my final year in obviously in Hackney and Stratford area, and I loved it. And obviously that's where I had my first job when I qualified. So I'd say kind of the main things that I've learned coming in reflection to then coming back down this way, obviously, you know, where I'm from, is, I mean, London's kind of way of life and teaching is so fast. It's just, and you don't realise until you come back down here that it is such a different way of life and speed of life, so to speak. So I think professionally and personally, I learned to work under kind of immense pressure of time and just what, you know, is kind of expected of you, just because, like I said, the way of life there and how fast everything is. But then at the same time, coming then back down this way, I've learned that actually having a little bit more time is just really nice. It was so fun working at that tempo. But it's quite nice to have some time for yourself, professionally and personally, kind of like, you know, more time to think about, you know, what you're doing and, you know, actually what you want to do, you know, personally and professionally, which is quite nice. But yeah.
Because I was going to say, probably Cornwall and London, you couldn't get any more different.
No, I mean, I was not. I love Devon and Cornwall, beautiful, like beaches, beautiful. But it really isn't me. So the reason kind of why I ended up in London was my final placement I got offered was in Penzance, and that is like in the heart of Cornwall. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, that's not really for me, and it was like, you know, a big long 6 month placement, and I was thinking no, and you know. And I was thinking, you know, whether or not I wanted to work in London. So I thought this really isn't going to stand me in good stead. So I mean, like, you know, we probably all know that we don't have a lot of choice when it comes to our placements. So I kind of was like, oh, you know, I don't really want to go to Penzance. And they were like, well, fine, you know, you can go to London then, and you know, and kind of deal with everything going on there. And in a way, they were a bit annoyed at me. And I was like, okay, fine. And loved it. So, you know, really glad that happened. I didn't stay in Penzance, but yeah, it was definitely an eye-opener. Definitely fun.
Brighton's probably like a happy medium between the two, maybe.
Yeah, literally, that is definitely it. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. Holly?
God, what? I mean, obviously for like teaching, I'm quite new to it. Like I trained in Chichester, and the schools I was put on placement in were actually quite small. So I actually went on placement where Miss Parry used to work at the school she was at.
Yeah.
And she was on maternity leave when I arrived, so I actually sat at her desk and never met her.
That's so funny.
She obviously came to work for Cardinal Newman. I was like, what are the chances? But both the schools I was at were pretty small, and I suppose like working with smaller groups and things like that. And then obviously I came to Cardinal Newman, and there's just so many students. I was like, oh my gosh, but I actually really liked it. I liked having people around all the time and just having loads of kids. And I think one of the things that I would say from teaching, like not just in schools, but like when I taught at EF, like I think I really started to learn like the responsibility that parents are trusting those kids in you, and like you're looking after them and stuff. And like, and even when you're at school, like they're trusting you to teach their child new things. And like it was a big thing for EF, because obviously I was in charge of them not getting lost, and I had to take like 30 kids around.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I got put in 200 kids going to Brighton, but it was Gay Pride, so I think I shaved years off my life doing that.
Oh my goodness.
My time, I was like, oh my God, what if I lose a kid? There's like 200 of them.
Yeah.
But I think it just showed how much I love it. And another thing I learned, like from working at my retreat centre, was like just having empathy for kids, like not realising that actually, like I'll be the first to admit, like I had a really charmed childhood. Like I had 2 acres of land in the house I used to live in. I used to run around all the time and stuff like that. But other kids have like real things they have to deal with, and like actually having empathy for them and trying to help them, and realising how much I actually wanted to help, like how much that hits home more than you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I learned lots of things. I'm still learning loads of new things as I go. Just every day, learning curve, I reckon.
Yeah. And it's about like being more than a teacher as well. Like I think people forget that we spend so much time with these students, and like I'm sure like each of you remember, you know, at least 3 of your teachers. And like I think we've always kind of got to remember that we're more than, this is why I wanted to do this, is that we're more than just what the curriculum is and what the school is, that we are actually individuals too. And I think it's about remembering on like a bad day, say you've had a bad day, but you're still gonna be in someone's thoughts in like 5, 10, you know, I know my grandma still remembers her teachers. I mean, that's like a whole lifetime of like leaving an impression on someone. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to know about your like personal and professional, you know, standpoint on it. Because I know that teaching is such a personal job for the teachers and for the people you're around, other members of staff, everything. If you're not personable, it's going to be a tricky job, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that word that Holly brought up, like empathy, like that is such an important like skill in teaching, and like, or not even just teaching, just working with, in jobs where you have to work with a lot of different people, and they have to work with you know, students or teachers. Empathy it's just something that is so important and so prevalent, and you know, and it's hard to like, you can't teach that like, you can teach that and you can't teach that. It's a weird one, isn't it? It's like it's one of those things where I think it definitely develops over time with more people you work with and you're around. Like the more people you're around and the more people you understand and learn from, I feel like the more empathy you develop. I don't think it's everything, you know, it's always constantly evolving.
Yeah, and it's even like I've had a few that carrying on with empathy. It's like even I've had a few, or I could have. This is a situation where I could have had more empathy. It's like I've kind of nabbed at some kids or some of my classes because I only have core classes, so you know I understand they're probably on the bottom of everyone's list, but I've nabbed at a few kids about literally no engagement, all of that. And actually hearing back from some of them, they're so stressed and like my empathy level completely dropped because it was almost selfish of me in a way that core PE is actually on the bottom of everyone's list. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Like there's so much stress going on, and I think empathy now is more important than ever, isn't it?
Difficult, isn't it? Because I think you've got, again, as a teacher, you almost want to drive good expectations and you want people to be the best they can be. And obviously, I don't think people always see that side of that's what we're trying to bring out as teachers and educators. You know, yes, employment's important, but we want to make sure that they get the best deal they can. And that sometimes is where you've got to both meet in the middle, haven't you, as a teacher, student, whoever it is, and you know, that's kind of how that works. But
so Ryan, from like your coaching kind of life, if you like, is there anything you've learned personally and professionally from that now taking it over to teaching? Because I had a conversation with Neil actually, that first podcast, about his coaching and teaching, kind of the similarities and differences, and what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think because that's probably like where my leading journey started, was in coaching. And I think, you know, from hearing the other two talk as well with Holly and Abby, I think it is, you do learn things in different experiences, jobs and everything that you go through. It's quite daunting when you're first kind of thrown in, you know, in front of a group of people, and it's like, good luck. Because the first time I did that, I must have been 16, and I had a group of like 14-year-olds who were in front of me, and it's like, I'm not ready for this. So quickly, being organised, kind of, you know, and again, I don't think students appreciate that. We're not some of us are not massively older, you know. It's just it's a learning process.
And that has its benefits and its negatives. Like that point is huge. Like that is such, I think for all of us here, that is such a difficult thing to contend with, isn't it, on a day-to-day basis? I don't know if it's just me that feels like that, or I don't know.
Well, is that like wanting to assert some sort of authority, but knowing age-wise you're completely underqualified to do so? It's like, to be honest with you, especially with the year 11s or college kids, you're like, I would do the exact same as you because I'm still actually half in that mindset. It's just knowing you're being like false, I suppose.
Or
you say things.
When they do things. It's when they do things and you're just like, you're obviously to their face is like, no, you can't do that, and then behind your back you're laughing because you're just like, that was so funny.
Done that.
I would have done that.
And it's a daily battle, I think, isn't it? I think we could all say it's a daily battle, but it comes with the job, and I'm sure, you know, every single member of staff has that battle, just personality-wise, knowing, you know, certain kids you maybe relate to more. It's like, oh God, I was so like you, or I am still like you. And I think that's why I actually love core PE, because there's nothing too serious about it.
So music on and get on the trampoline.
Exactly. Kind of like moving away from that now is kind of, so do's and don'ts. This is going to be actually really important soon for like year 13s and year 11s. Do's and don'ts when writing for like a job application.
Ooh.
Real kind of U-turn here, but
do's and don'ts when.
So I think the do's to start with is make sure that you research what the job is. So have a look at the website, have a look at, so for example, if it's, you know, let's say Cardinal Newman Catholic School that you're looking to go towards that, what is that school like? What are they about? Do you fit into that? Do your research first.
Yeah, I think that's, do you fit into that is such a good point. Like, yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, I think a lot of people try, like, I think what you were gonna say as well. So I'm trying to close my blind. I'm getting like blinded by the sun. It's lovely to see it. I think do you fit? I think sometimes when you're applying for a job, you put yourself under so much pressure to try and prove to them that you fit, but actually, do they fit with you? That's like just as important part of the question.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that actually. Does that job fit what you're about?
Yeah.
It's such a good point.
It's always good to have a question in hand about that. When the employer says, if you're lucky enough to go to an interview and they say any questions, there's no harm in saying, well, why should I come here? What for me? And they need to sell themselves to you as well. I think that it's missed sometimes in applications and people going for jobs. So yeah,
definitely. And if I knew that when I went new jobs, it would have been I probably wouldn't have even gone for them in the first place.
Yeah.
So that is a really good point. Holly, what were you saying?
I said when I was doing my interview for Cardinal Numa, I remember one of the things that threw me off, like going on for what Brian said, is that I remember Simon standing across me and going, well, what can we do for you for your first year
that
teaching?
question.
And I was like, I don't know. What am I allowed to do? But like, I think one of the things I looked for, I was really picky about schools when I was applying. Like, I think I only ended up applying for 3 different schools, and that was like unheard of on my PGCE. Like, everyone was like, don't you want a job? And I was like, well, yeah, but not if it's not the school for me, because if I don't go to a school that works for me, I'm going to be rubbish at it, because I won't fit what they want, and they don't fit what I want. So I think that is one of the things you've got to check, if they're the right fit for you and you are the right fit for them.
I think going off of that as well, it's important to not mask who you are as well, and make sure that you are yourself. Obviously, be professional on an interview day, but don't try and be something that you're not, because again, it's fake, isn't it? It's not good for you, it's good for the employer. Just be you.
Definitely. Also, another thing as well is, like, there's sometimes a fine line between confidence and, I'm just going to say, arrogance, and that's a really, really difficult kind of place on the scale to find, because yes, we should all believe in ourselves and have confidence in ourselves, but kind of, how do you still seem modest with it? I might be thinking a bit crazy here, but I think it's really difficult to, like, my strengths are and sometimes you actually might not have a weakness in that area, or
is that an English thing? Because we don't as a nation, we're not very good at saying what we're good at. We're not very good at that. I don't necessarily see it as a bad point going in and say, because you've got to sell yourself. And you're right, but I think we worry about it too much. I think at the end of the day, if you're being yourself and you have, they know what they're looking for. Again, majority of it will probably be in your application that you've written to them and so on anyway, so they would know your profile. But, reminding them of bits, maybe not going overboard with it, but just putting bits and putting an example to that, I think, is always important as well. So not, oh, I'm really good at this. Well, where's an example you've done?
Yeah, that's so important. Definitely.
I think when I did my first CV, my older brother looked over it and he was like, what do you mean? He like looked at it and he went, well, you're being too modest. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, no one else is going to sell you, Holly. You need to sell yourself on the application. And I was like, well, I think I have. And he was like, no, you've just been like, well, I can do this. He was like, you need to be in there. Like, my strengths are this and I can do this. And I was like, I had to sit there. My brother was just at me like, no. It was so funny. But like, I think you're right, the fine line. I was like, well, aren't I going to sound arrogant? And he was like, no, you're just going to sound like you know what you're good at and you know what you might need a bit more development on.
Does anyone else have babysitting on their CV still? I do.
That's all that teaching is, isn't it?
And I act as though babysitting has taught me every single life skill I have today.
Well, that's funny you say that, actually, because I obviously from moving back from London down here, I saw the child, the young boy that I used to babysit. Oh my goodness, he's no longer like literally when I was babysitting, he must have been about here, and I saw him when I got to the shop, and then you're looking at someone, and I was like, what? I was like, how have you got so big? That's so funny you mentioned that. But yeah. And I did definitely have babysitting on my CV, like especially when I was applying to Waitrose. Great with kids.
I didn't even babysit. I just went with my sister.
You were the baby.
Yeah, I was just trying to fill it out a bit.
What was the funniest thing you think you put on your CV? Like your first ever CV, there must have been something really out there that you put on there, like that you just that's off now.
It's got to be my predicted grades.
Oh.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Oh. What a joke they were.
Oh gosh. I think mine was probably like because all I did was play sport, just like all I did was play like football and tennis. I think it was just like every single question. It was just like, well, when I'm in football and sometimes I'm the captain. It's like they're not asking you for like what position you play, Abby. Like what are you doing? That's the only thing I had to say because it was like, what do you do in your spare time? Well, play football and play a bit more football.
When I was teaching BTEC Unit 3, it's all about professional development, and they have to write a CV. So I was like, I'm going to find one of my really old CVs that I wrote when I was like their age. That was like 2 years ago for me. Anyway, and one of the things, and I remember this because my brother and my mother made me put it on it. Like it was a team effort, my CV. But,
brother and mother.
Had year 9 student of the year. Like because at school I've been given an award. Oh my god, and it was on my first CV, and I saw it and I was like, oh my god, you really put that on your CV, Holly. Like, god. That had to be the most embarrassing thing. And then I took it off. And I remember my mum was just like, why? And I was like, because they don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so funny. I couldn't believe I put it on it. Like, when you look back a couple of years later and you're just like, why?
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Brian?
I don't know. I was just trying to find mine, actually. I'm sure I've got it here somewhere around on Google Drive or whatever, but...
Mine are deleted, so I'm not keeping those.
That's the thing. It's one of those things you just got to constantly update, haven't you? So I think mine's up to date now, so I couldn't know what it used to be like, but I'm sure it used to be quite comical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I had plays the ukulele and other interests on mine. I can play like a song on the ukulele.
No.
Well, not a hobby, and it's
Go on then, go and get it.
Music.
Music was banned in my house. It was like I remember I was in year 2 and I got a recorder, and when they send you home with one, and it's like learn London's Burning or whatever it is. So I remember I was in the lounge and I was like do 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 do, and my dad just grabbed it, put it on the top shelf, and he was like, no, football,
It's
and I was like, okay.
So do you get nervous for job interviews, and advice for people, or like how have you overcome that and kind of merge that into advice for our young people on kind of combating those nerves?
Yes.
Pre and during. Yeah, I do. I know I do.
Yeah.
Me to go first?
Every time. Are you even human if you don't get nervous for an interview? Like, I mean, if you're going in there fully arrogantly confident, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There's always that little bit in me. I proper freak out. Like, I remember being sat in front of Liam, and now, like, me and Liam get along like a house on fire, but I remember thinking, oh god, I'm so scared.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm scared of you.
Yeah, now I would never tell him. Do not tell him.
He's gonna hear it now.
Yeah. Oh wow. God.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, if you really want it, you're probably going to be nervous for it. But then to overcome that, just be prepared. Make sure, again, you've done your research, because they're going to ask you questions based on what they want. be ready for that.
Yeah.
I find
Exactly.
like what helps my nerves, because I am so nervous. Like preparing for an interview is like a 4-week process for me to actually get my like mental state. And it still comes the day of the interview, and I'm like writing my name on the reception thing, and I'm like. But I think it always helps with me is whenever I'm in an interview, I always try and chat to the other candidates. Because otherwise, because then you're always just sitting there really awkwardly and nervous and no one's talking. It's so much better just to be like, right, come then guys, let the best man win or best lady win, and then let's have a little chat. I mean, me and Mr. Norcross know that too well.
I was going to say, did you two have a conversation then?
Yeah, she tried psyching me out. She was like, I've done this and done this. What have you done?
I did not. I was like, oh my gosh, are you a bit nervous? And you were like, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think.
I remember both of you up in the staff room.
Yeah, when they gave us all that food, and I was like, we're all too nervous to eat this melon, bless them, or whatever it was.
And then the PE club came up to say hi, and we all ate it.
Yeah.
Miss Pavey, question for you then, or Miss Ryan. What do you think like the worst bit of an interview is? So obviously for us, we have to, if you don't know, tour of the school with either a student or a teacher. You've got to deliver a lesson. You've got to sit down and be asked questions by a head of department and that. What bit do you find worst? Because I know for me, I always find it difficult when, because we teach, and I think when you've gone through that lesson so many times in your head before you've taught it, okay. But for me, it's still nerve-wracking. But the worst bit is sitting down and having the questions when they're looking at you. They're looking at your every move, and like, so I hate that.
I think mine's a bit of a weird one. Mine's I really don't like the tour of the school when there's a big group of you, of all the candidates, and you all have to walk around, and all of you are awkward because you're all nervous, and you all want everyone that you're looking at and who's looking at you to think you're fine and you're good and you're ready for this job, and it's like everyone's asking loads of questions, and then sometimes it turns into like a bit of a competition of who's asking the most questions. And if anyone's been in this, and then it's like, oh no, am I asking too many questions or not enough questions? And then someone asks a really good question, and you're like, oh, that was a really good question. Why didn't I think of that? And then the whole bit of that stresses me out.
Yeah, that is bad.
Having an insight into Abby's inner monologue during her interview, like.
You think that super keen person, don't you, that asks 50 million questions, and you're like, oh, tone it down now.
Yeah.
Tone it down. What's next, right? Yeah.
I think mine is even weirder though, Abby. I would say, obviously, I went on the interview for Cardinal Newman, and when I got there, the other candidates had all been teaching for like 5 years at least. And I sat down as the only newly qualified teacher, and I was like, oh, good God.
You psych yourself out, don't you?
Well, yeah, because I was proper like, why am I even here? Like, they've all been teaching, they're way more experienced. They know what they're doing. I don't. What? I think my worst part of saying that is when I meet the other people. And I'm my own worst enemy, and I just sit there and I'm sitting there and still waiting for someone to come and get me and greet me, and in my head I'm just going, oh God, and all the reasons why they're all more experienced than you, Holly. They've been for longer than you. They're going to pick one of them over you, and you just become your own worst enemy.
Yeah, I would say as a tip. Sorry.
That's right. No.
I'd say as a tip is. This is also what okay, maybe it's not a good tip, but this is also what I did for my exams. I didn't think about it the morning of. You prepare yourself, you get a good night's sleep, you wake up as if it's any normal day, and you go in, and because you've had that kind of
break,
pause from it, you're going into it fresh rather than, and it's so much more difficult than said than done, or whatever that saying is. But I think like the best thing that I've ever done is just to not even think about it. Like say if the interview's at 10 o'clock, get up, have a bit of brekkie, go out, walk the dog, just chill out. And I think it's getting into that zone. I did a loom the other day. So if any of my class are watching this, you'll know about the parasympathetic nervous state of mind. Anyone know what I'm on about?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going on a loop end?
Nervous system. Yeah.
Yeah, so completely like zoning out, phone off, getting into that like state of mind where you're totally relaxed before your phone comes back on the journey there. You're texting your mum like, I'm nearly there, I'm 5 minutes away, da 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 da. Leave that and leave it. Just don't even bother. Yeah.
Just like every family member, I'm like, yeah, Nan, nearly there. Oh, hold on, here's my dad. All right, Dad, yeah, nearly.
I think like with exams as well, there is literally no point in revising before on the day. I think it's just so pointless. I think do your preparation, like failing to prepare, it's over really, isn't it? So prepare yourself and make sure you've it's a long term. Yeah, length of preparing, and then that morning before, chill out. Get into
you're not gonna looking at those notes. The last minute is gonna have no impact on anything you're about to do, because your brain is already taken in as much as it can. I think that's really important, actually. Really important.
I did. I'm going to sound really nerdy and sciencey here, but I remember in uni I read an article, a research article, and it was about the fact that when you go in for exams and stuff like that, that they, in their opinion, in the data they found that because you're in a certain system for the nervous system, and you're so highly aware that you don't actually retain anything you're reading. Apparently you retain it for like 3 seconds and then it's out. So, and I was like, wow, there really is. So all those times I was at college and I was sitting down with all my friends going like, test me. Like, that was giving zero impact into my exam. Like, yeah, actually flashcards and stuff like that. And apparently it just don't work because you're so nervous and you've got such a high level of some sort of hormone that you
probably
just
adrenaline, isn't it? Probably adrenaline
I think that I was quite lucky at university that one of the last units that we did was called Entering the Profession, and that was all for like interview prep and what to do on the day and all of those. So I think once we've gone through that so many times, it's almost like on the day you have those steps in your head. You know, you park up, turn your phone off, you leave it in your glove box so that you have no distractions on the day, go in, obviously sign in, sit, and we had all of those things. Even down to the detail of like, if we were doing the interview bit now, you know, it's like sit comfortably, make sure you've got a glass of water or a drink. You know, if someone asks a question and you're not quite sure, ask them to repeat it or have the drink again. Don't go through things like, good question, because that just makes you look a bit stupid, you know. Just sit, pause, they know you're nervous. That's why they're asking it. Exactly, they know you're nervous, so yeah, just go with it.
I suppose it's a bit like sports psychology. I don't know, I may be, again, going on a loose end here, but with sports psychology, do you learn about how like athletes and everything's prepare for an event?
My
dissertation it's just like that then, isn't it?
My dissertation was on pre-performance anxiety and things like that. How you build up to it. That's why I'd read that reading about exams and stuff, but no, loads of it. I think one of my biggest tips though, for like, and this is going to sound so bad, and my brother actually gave it to me, and it was just fake it till you make it. And it was that idea that I remember Cardinal Newman gave me sprinting as as what I was going to teach, and luckily for me it rained because I'm not an expert in how you sprint, and it was Miss Machin who was watching my lesson. So she's an expert.
Oh dear.
So, oh my god. And I remember it raining, and I had to change my lesson. I'd set up so that we could do a fitness circuit inside, but I'd forgotten my little cards I made. I made laminate cards for it, and I'd forgotten them because I'd looked at the weather and I thought, it's going to be nice and sunny and stuff. Yeah, Abby's already like, oh god. So I got one of my whiteboard pens out that I had and flipped over my cards that were meant for sprinting and just wrote plank, and wrote the stages on there while I was waiting to do my thing. And then, like, when I went into the lesson, I was like, they do not know that I've just done that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pretend like that's what was meant to happen and put it all out. They were none the wiser. Like, obviously now watching, they're going to know.
Yeah. That's good. I would have gone into complete meltdown.
Yeah, meltdown.
I'd be like, forget it, I don't want the job.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Where's the bus stop? Where's the bus stop, everyone?
I kept saying to myself that, like, they don't know that, like, they don't know you. So how do they know that you haven't taught bloody hurdles? How do they know you're not an Olympian who trained for the GB team or something? Like, you could come out with that, but they don't know. So I think one of the things you've got to remember is all the things you know you're bad at, they don't know that.
Yeah.
So you have to pretend like you're not.
Yeah.
That was
They do make
my
it.
thing.
Love
They
it.
do make it.
So we've
I
done
don't
like...
lie, obviously. Don't lie about it.
Yeah. to a certain point.
Can
Ian's behind me and he's like, this isn't the girl who came on interview. Like, who's this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've kind of done application process, interview process. How do people approach their first day?
Ooh.
Oh my
You've got
God.
your first day at your new job. How do you go about it?
I think
Say,
normally
be
you're given
friendly,
information, aren't you?
Say hello.
Say hello.
Yeah.
Good start.
Turn up.
Yeah, turn up.
Yeah.
Be dressed appropriately.
Yes.
Abby, who turned up in...
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't dress appropriately, but Mr. Norcross was really mean, and he tried to set me up with wearing the wrong attire, and I've never forgiven him. And quite frankly, he scarred my first day.
I think you'll find that I think it starts before the first day, doesn't it? I think you need to if you've got any concerns or questions, you'll always have a million of them. Ask the boss, and the boss told me that he was happy for me to stitch you up. So therefore, it is not just to me. I'm bringing Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, we'll get his insight into Murphy that he's happy to get anyone stitched up. It's all right, Abby. On our first internet day, Liam failed to tell me that you're allowed to be in home
I
clothes.
know.
So he came in his flip-flops, and I came in uniform again. I was like, hey.
Oh, it's like non-full school uniform day, and no one told you.
Yeah, literally.
I've done it once before, and it's horrible.
Yeah, no. So I think to prepare for a first day, I think it starts before, and I think like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's getting yourself into that mental state. I think it's just making sure you're prepared, but also like not so nervous that you're panicking and you're not you. But then also not being like overly friendly, and not focusing on what you're supposed to do either. Like there's a fine line between like doing your job but also getting to know people, so you're fitting in, but not going overboard with it.
It's always an overwhelming day, isn't it? When you've got so much information that's given to you. So almost like be prepared for it, but don't feel like you have to know everything that's given to you, because you'll learn it over time. Just relax and take the day as it comes.
I think, because I remember my first day, and I was just shadowing Liam, and like I think this is like my biggest regret, and something that I would really say to like young people, especially going for their first job, or turning up to their first job, is be proactive. Like ask what you can do, ask if there's anything I should know, or ask the other members of staff, like, any tips or something like that. Because I remember I was so nervous, and I think I was only 17 actually, or 18 or something like that. But I was really young, and I remember just sitting there, like in the corner, like when you just kind of you forget that you're not invisible.
Yeah.
And I was like just sat like listening to what people were saying, and Liam would be like, right, we're going here now, and I would just like get up and scurry off away. But I should have been like, I know. I think being proactive and chatty, and exactly. And like just talk to people, get to know people. These are people that you're going to be working with every single day. You're going to see them more than like your family. So you may as well get to know them and
They've
learn
appointed
how to
you because
work
they want you
together.
there, you know. So
Hey,
they've appointed you because they know like who you are. So they
Yeah.
want you there. They want, you know. So yeah, feel more
Yeah.
comfortable in your skin.
yeah,
I would say, like, not to pile on the pressure for your first day, but also, like, you don't get a second chance at a first impression.
No.
Like, I
Yeah.
always, like, even though I know sometimes I am loud and stuff, but you want to be at least smiley and bright. Like, look like you want to be there. Don't look like you're so nervous you're paralyzed.
Yeah.
Like, you want to say, obviously you've got to have a balance, like Abby was talking about, but like, do say hello to people and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
otherwise they just remember you as the moody person who walked down the hallway and didn't say hi to them.
yeah.
And I tell you what, some place or another, even if they're in a different department, you're going to need a favour one day,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And that's you want people to remember your name. Like, you don't want to go out and then they're all like still there after 3 o'clock. They're like, oh God, I don't even know what her name was. I mean, it's like you want to leave an impression. You want
Yeah.
people to know who you are and like what you're about. And I think, yeah, it's going in with that confidence, but not overpowering and
Yeah.
acting like you've been there for 5 years, because
Oh
actually you
yeah,
haven't
that's
yet.
so that's awful. That's
You are
like
a newbie, and you're going to get treated like the newbie,
Yeah.
and that's fine, that's normal. And one day you won't be the newbie, so everyone's got to go through it, type thing.
Yeah.
And find the bit, like, so don't go in arrogantly, because I mean, like Millie, you remember this, like, I had like a million questions on my first day, and I tell you what, who knew all the answers? Millie did.
Yeah.
Millie knew all the answers. And like, it was just so funny. And so I, like, pretty early on, I was like, this girl right here knows what's happening. I'm asking.
Yeah, to be fair, Liam said,
early on, I was like,
yeah, Liam was like, any questions? And I thought he was going to be like, you know, just ask me. He was like, no, just ask Millie. I was like, okay.
We did get that brief.
Yeah.
Oh God. And also another tip I would say is, this isn't from this job, but my past job would be, understand and be aware that not everyone is actually very interested in you, and don't take it personally. Some people don't really know whether you're there or not, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But don't take it personally and be disheartened by it. You never know, in 3 months you could be busy pals with that person. So just go in and be open-minded, I think, is the best way to go about things,
definitely.
really, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, remember, like, they still have a job to do as well. Like, anybody's busy, no matter what, and their life doesn't stop just because you've arrived.
Yeah.
It's not like you walk in like, the party to get started now, I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how it works.
I think also it's important, like, especially when you are young going into your first job, like, not to, you know, your only kind of experience of going somewhere new is either like a new school or new college, and I think it's really important when it's your first job after leaving school, college, uni, you know, it's important not to bring that school mentality in there as well. Like, you know, you go to school, you know, obviously to have an education and make friends, but when you go to work, you're there to, you know, make money and do obviously like what you want to do when you're older. Obviously friends, normally you always make friends, you know, not school friends, but work friends, you know. But like you said, like, it's really important to not over focus on that, because people are there to do a job, and you will make, you know, get close to some people and close to others, but trying to leave that school mentality behind and be like, right, no, this is where, you know, as friendly as I need to be, also I do need to be quite mature in this scenario too.
Professional.
Yes, that's the word, professional. Yes.
Yeah. Last but not least, I
was just saying, take on information from everyone. Like, when I went to Cloud Entertainment, I've never, like, the way Mr. Grant teaches and then the way Miss Machin teaches, you could just steal so much stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like I don't need to think for myself, because I can grab that. I remember watching Ryan teach one of my football lessons, and I was like, oh my God, I'm sorted for life now. I know exactly how I'm going to set this up. Like, it was such a good learning experience. I think just remembering that even though you've left school, you're still learning. Always. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
even if you hate it.
Hugely. So last but not least, just a kind of nice little message to the listeners? So, like, especially now coming out of tough times like COVID and da-da-da-da. I'm sure everyone's bored of hearing it, but it is tough times for everyone. And so just a little message for everyone.
Ooh, little message.
I would say...
Want me to go?
Oh, God, Ryan, you go first.
Am I going? I'm going to say don't put pressure on yourself. You know, if you've just come out of college, you've got your whole life ahead of you. Don't feel that you need to fall on your feet and get your job straight away. It might not happen. So take your time, build stepping stones, and eventually you will get there. But be determined, stay determined, and don't just settle for the first thing you get. Keep going until you do get what you want to achieve. And you'll get.
I would say my kind of message would be do things that make you happy. You know, because of COVID, you know, we've all had to sacrifice certain things, you know, to stay in line with regulations, and it's made it even more prevalent, you know, how important it is to do things that make you happy and make time for things that make you happy. So I would say, you know, think about all the things that you've missed out on doing and prioritize those when you can. And you know, the happier you are, you know, the more efficient you are, the more you get done, you know, the more kind of, you know, you're working hard and happy about that. So yeah, I'd say do things that make you happy.
Yeah.
I would say my message probably is that, like, don't rush into something you're not sure about. Like, if you're not sure about you, it's okay that even if you've come out of college to still not know what you want to do, and that's fine, and it will come. It just might take a bit longer. So, I mean, as much as I was saying I learned compassion for others, but also you've got to have some compassion for yourself. Everyone's been through a really tough time now, and even if you don't know what you want to do, it will come. And you don't have to know what you want to do at 17, 18. Like, I wanted to be a chocolatier at 17, so it can change like that. So I think
it's too funny.
Compassionate people.
Yeah. So be selfish, open-minded, ready to learn. I would take away from that, guys. So thank you very much. But anyway, I will wrap up now. So thank you, guys. Thank you, you three.
Yeah,
Lovely to talk to you as always. And I will see you in podcast number 5.
Woo!